G'day. Last year I posted a video of when I captured an image of the Bauchaille Mountains near Glenceo in the Highlands of Scotland. On that video I received a number of comments asking if I could do a video on how I edited that image. So that's what we're going to do today. This video is sponsored by Squarespace, so if you need a website, a domain or an online store, make your next move with Squarespace. Before we jump into Lightroom, I want to show you a small clip from the Glenceo video where I set up the camera to take the shot. So this morning I'm back in Glenceo. It's a beautiful morning. We've got broken cloud, we've got the mountain mist that's drifting through the mountains, and it really is a beautiful scene. And honestly, you can stop anywhere, get out of your car and take a photo of one of these mountains, and it's an all right shot. What I'm trying to do is explore the area to try and find a foreground interest, because I still think it's important to have a foreground interest to these subjects. So I've parked the car and I'm hiking up one of these tracks to try and find some foreground interest, either a leading line of a path or maybe a body of water, even a waterfall maybe. Who knows? I haven't got much time, so let's get cracking. This is exactly what I was looking for. The track that I'm walking along has started to turn around towards part of the Bauchaille, and it's that famous part, the really triangular pyramid shaped mountain. This path provides a bit of a leading line from the left-hand side of the image through to the middle and leads the eye up to the Bauchaille itself. And there's a little bit of sunlight just drifting across the front of it, which is going to make for a really nice image. There's a little bit of rain around, so I've got the shower cap on there just to protect the front of the lens. But underneath is just a screw-on polarizer, because I'm not going to use any filters or anything like that. It's just easier. With the camera set at ISO 100 and an f-stop of 8, that gives me a shutter speed of 1/200. And this should make for a really nice image. The light provides a little bit of depth to the mountain, and that path is leading the eye straight to it. So I won't take any more time, I'll just grab this shot. So here we are in Lightroom. Now I know that videos about post-processing isn't for everybody, because they can take a bit of time. So I'm just going to get straight into it and run through this reasonably quickly. And hopefully by talking you through how and why I edited this in a certain way, you'll be able to pick up a few things along the way. So if we go to the shot straight out of camera, this is it here, and you can see that it's fairly flat, but that's to be expected. It's the raw image, just waiting for the detail to be drawn out in Lightroom. The sun was fairly high, it's behind me, so when it did actually break through the clouds, the light was falling on this side of the mountain. And once I had set up my composition, I had to wait there for approximately 20 or 30 minutes before the light did actually break through and fall across the mountain, as you can see it here. So For the majority of the day, it was fairly dark and gloomy. You can even see on the horizon there on the left and the right hand side of the mountain how dark it was. And I kind of wanted to bring that out in the image, even when I took the shot, but certainly when editing it, my intention was to make the sky dark and quite dramatic. And in doing so, highlight where the light was actually hitting the side of the mountain and the grass and get that to really, really pop. So the first thing I generally do when editing images is I have a look around the edges where there's dark straight onto light, so that little contrast area there's a little bit of chromatic aberration, so I remove that by clicking the remove chromatic aberration option here under lens corrections, and while I'm here I also enable the profile corrections as well. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the level of this shot, and it's a little bit hard because there's not really a horizon that can guide me. So what I'm doing is I'm really looking at the mountain here and trying to get some sense of symmetry. So around about there I'm happy with, so that will do. And we'll come back to cropping it a little bit later, I think. So in terms of adjustment, I start up the top here with the basic adjustments and I have a look at the white balance. Now there's a couple of options that I've got. I can go auto, see what that gives me. I can go cloudy because it was actually cloudy that day. But what I might do is grab the dropper and bring the dropper over to a part of the cloud where I'm expecting it to be white or grey, and hopefully that'll give me actually a pretty good result. I'm quite happy with that. I'm not going to move the tint, but from there I want to warm it up just a little bit, so I'll just add a little bit more warmth like that, I think. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'll leave the tint, as I said, where it is. Now the tone, again, I'll click auto and see what that gives me. It's actually not too bad. I'm quite happy with that. I might just bring down that exposure just a tad. Not too much, it's good. And the contrast, yeah, not bad. I might just bring up a little bit of contrast. Like that. Yeah, it's not too bad at all. The highlights I'm pretty happy with. The shadows, I'm probably going to play around with the shadows later on, but be a little bit more targeted. The whites I am actually going to bring down because I want to bring down some of those whites in the clouds. So yeah, something like about -10 there. And look, the blacks I'm quite happy with. The clarity, I'll put a little bit of clarity in now, but again, I don't want to overdo it. And about, yeah, 13, 15, yeah, looks pretty good to me. And I might add a little bit more punch with the vibrancy. So say 25, maybe push that up to 30. And with the saturation, I'm going to actually zero that. So an easy way of zeroing any of these is just double clicking on the label. If I wanted to bring back what auto suggested, then all I need to do is hold down the shift button and double click it, and they suggest 4, but I'm gonna leave it at 0. Now the reason why I'm going to do that is I'm going to come down here under HSL color and have a look at each of the color channels and control the saturation independently. And what I do is I swing each of the colors left and right. It doesn't look like the red is going to affect anything. If I bring the orange left and right, yeah, you can see just in the path and in some of the grass here, as I move this left and right, you can see that's the part of the image that's going to be affected by this channel. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a little bit of saturation in, not overdo it, but that looks pretty good. Now the yellow, of course that's going to affect the grass, so bring that up a little bit, probably there will do. And then the greens are going to affect some of the tones in the grass, but if I bring it up to maybe not that far, about 27 will do. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm going to do the same with the luminance. So again, with the orange, I'm probably going to darken that just a little bit. Nice. With the grass, I'm probably going to add a little bit of luminance there. Say 15, don't want to overdo it at this stage. And again with the greens, I'll probably go with the same. Maybe about 15. Yeah, maybe just under. That looks pretty good to me. Right, let's deal with this sky. Let's darken it down. I'm going to grab a graduated filter on the left here, and I'm going to go from the top and bring it down. Now, to make sure that it's level, I'm going to hold the shift and bring it down, and that means that it's absolutely, it doesn't matter where I go here, the filter is going to be nice and level. I'm going to probably bring it down to approximately that far there. No shadows at this stage, and I'm going to darken it down. So let's bring that down maybe to there. Darkening it down just a little bit. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to bring another graduated filter. So I'm going to go and click New here and bring in another graduated filter, and this time line it up with the edge of the mountain. Again, I'm going to bring down the exposure. And the highlights I'll bring down to maybe 40. The shadows, again, whites down again. Bringing just the whites down in those clouds because I don't want it too white. Maybe the 30. Again, I want to bring out a little bit of detail. Again, I want to make it fairly dramatic. So I'm going to bring the clarity up, dehaze this. Again, just to darken it a fraction, probably about 10. So that's one side, and now I'm going to do the same to the other side. Right, the other way of darkening this down, and also darkening down a little bit of the foreground, is to go straight down to the effects panel down the bottom here and grab the vignetting and just drag in a little bit of vignetting. Now, I'm trying to get a fairly dramatic effect here, so I'm going to go 45, maybe just back it off a little bit. My midpoint, I want to bring in that fairly tight and bring out the feather to about there. Now it's looking pretty good. Now it's pretty dark at the moment, I know, but I'm really just concentrating on the sky at this stage. What we'll now start to do is bring out some of the highlights in the ground and get them to pop. So to start off with, I'm going to go into the side here and start bringing up some of the shadows and even increasing some of the exposure just on the edge of the mountain here. So I'm going to grab my adjustment brush. I'm going to set the exposure to maybe 0.3 and bring up the shadows, I don't know. Maybe 20 to start off with, and I'm just going to just carefully go along the edge here and bring up some of the shadows along the edge of the mountain here. Nice. Now, this is going to take me quite some time. You can see I'm just following the edge. My brush is slightly smaller now. I've got the feather of the brush set to about 100. So I can just make these increasingly smaller, and so I can get in there tighter and tighter to the edge. Happy with that. So the idea with that adjustment brush was to bring out some of the details, some of the shadows, and now with it set, I might actually bring up the shadows just that little bit more. Yep, I'm going to bring it up to approximately 35. Now get a little bit more detail on the front of the mountain. I'm going to add in a radial filter. Yep, good. And this I'm going to increase the exposure to about half a stop. So again, that gives me just that little bit of punch. As you can see, what I'm trying to do is just layering on the effects slowly but surely. I'm going to do another radial filter, and again with my exposure set to half a stop. Alright, so you can see how through these layers I'm starting to build up the highlights of the mountain. Next I'm going to go down to sharpening. Now I'm going to grab a bit of the mountain there. It's got a bit of detail like that. So I'm just having a look at that as I bring my sharpening up. About 70 will do. And my mask, I'll hold down the option key, and that just shows me which parts of the image is being affected by the sharpening. We really don't want the sharpening to go into the sky. So look, around about 50, maybe 52, 51. That'll do. I'm going to crop it now. Now when I did crop it, I cropped it to a 16:9 ratio. About there, and I'm just going to bring it down a little bit. You can see how I'm cropping out the blue of the sky. It's looking pretty good in terms of where the sides of the mountain are hitting. I've got the path kind of going from one third up into the center. I've got the mountain centered there. I'm happy with that. Now what I'm going to do is, if there's any tinge of blue there, I can get rid of that by coming up to the saturation, grabbing the blue channel, and then just bringing that down, and that blue will now disappear in the sky, and there's just a tad of blue off in the distance as well, so that's now disappeared. So the foreground is just a little bit too dark for me, so we're going to grab another graduated filter. I'm going to bring this up from the bottom, and the exposure, I probably need to bring it up even more. Probably do around about 1. It's looking pretty good to my eye. Now I want to make a little bit more of this path. This path is being just lost a little bit. So the way in which I'm going to do that is I'm going to grab another adjustment brush. I'm going to keep the exposure probably at around about half a stop. So just follow the line of this path through like that. See the effect that it's having there, which is just perfect. And I'm probably going to get some of the grass along here as well. So the idea here is, by highlighting this section, I'm emphasizing what I'm using as a leading line. Now the eye is drawn to the path because it's highlighted in comparison to the area around it, which then just draws that eye or makes more of a feature of that leading line up into probably this light patch here, right at the bottom of the mountain, and then your eye then just moves up across into the mountain there. Now while I've got that set, I'm probably going to bring the shadows up a little bit, not too far, about there. Probably bring down the blacks a little bit. So we are nearly there. Just before we finish though, I want to just do a little bit of dodging and burning just to bring out some of the contrast between the shadowed areas and the highlight areas. So one of the things I want to do is just brighten up this side of the mountain. So to do that, I'm going to grab an adjustment brush. I'm going to go to Dodge, which will lighten it. My exposure's at 0.25. Bring down my brush. I'm just going to carefully brush in this area here. So I'm now going to grab a new adjustment brush. I'm going to keep the exposure to 0.25. I'm going to bring the highlights up to 10. And I'm just going to go over these highlight spots. Now I could do the same to the shadowed areas by grabbing a new adjustment brush, this time grabbing Burn, which is darken, brings the exposure down to 0.3. The idea is just to go over the shadowed areas just at the front here. So there you have it. That's pretty much my edit. I could continue working at it, labouring on a little bit more, dodging and burning. I could get into that area just at the top of the mountain here. But you pretty much get what I'm going for here. If I go back to the original edit, or the edit that I did for the video, and to take a look, that's what I had there. I suppose just a little bit more work done to it, and this is the edit that I've done for you guys here. So there you have it. If you have any questions, then please leave a comment in the comments below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please give it a like below. I haven't uploaded a video recently because I just simply haven't had the opportunity of getting out, but I plan to do so very soon. One of the things I have been doing over the summer break is working on a set of t-shirts like this one I'm wearing. I've teamed up with a mate of mine, Nick Williams, who's a graphic designer, and I think he's done a terrific job in incorporating my images into these really cool t-shirt designs. I'm really excited to announce that they're available for purchase, so if you want to check them out, click on the link in the description below. A big thanks for Squarespace for sponsoring this video. They provide an easy to use website building platform that I can genuinely recommend. I've been using Squarespace for my own website for years now. They're a great company to deal with, and just recently they released a new set of fantastic looking templates that you can choose from to start your site. So go check them out. You can start your free trial at squarespace.com and go to squarespace.com/AndrewMarr to get 10% off your first purchase. If you're new to my channel, I've got some new landscape adventures coming up, so please consider subscribing. And if you do so, make sure you hit the notification bell so you're notified when I upload my next video. But until next time guys, thanks very much for watching.